I'm Kevin Wolf, the owner of All Ears Hearing Products and Services, and welcome to All Ears Hearing Products and Services Sound Ed. Sound Ed is brought to you by Hearing Loss and Loss Prevention, the audio CD that makes understanding hearing loss and, loss prevention much easier. Hey, I think we better get to class.
Hello, I am the virtual Sergeant Stanford, and I will be teaching you this course on hearing conservation. We will start by discussing the decibel. The decibel system is a unit of measurement that allows us in fairly simplistic terms to measure sound pressure. Deci means 10. Bell is a tribute to Alexander Graham Bell, who came up with the decibel system of measurement for measuring sound pressure. Mr. Bell also invented one of the very first electronic hearing assisting devices for his sister, who is hard of hearing, of course, to assist him in communicating with her and helping her to better understand him, as he wanted to be able to communicate with her more effectively and more at ease. At the same time, with that invention, he inadvertently invented the very first telephone. Alright, now I'm going to turn on the projector and let's take a look here at this overlay. We're going to start out with the Deci system. Each time we see these numbers, we know that what we're really looking at is sound pressure measurements, okay? And when I say dB, that is just abbreviation for decibel, okay? Okay, we begin here at the chart. The top of the chart is 0 dB, which is considered to be the weakest sound that a person with good normal hearing can hear. And I know some of you are thinking, gee, Sergeant Stanford, how can something be 0? I mean, that's like nothing. Well, that's where it begins, and I got to tell you, 0 dB does sound pretty much about like nothing. And you notice the next level on this chart, we jump up to 20 dB, and that's at about a sound loudness of a soft whisper.
Shh, we must be very, very quiet.
The next number up from 20 dB is 40 dB. And that's about the loudness of a typewriter from across an office. And next we go to 60 dB, and that's about as loud as a conversation from about 3 feet away.
Say, it's a pretty nice day out here, wouldn't you say? I'd have to agree. One of the nicest days so far this week.
Well, that's kind of an important one to keep in mind, that we talk around 60 to 65 dB, normal conversation. All right. Now next we go to 70 dB, and that's about as loud as a noisy restaurant. Now folks, that was recorded right over here on base at Del Mar's, and that was before they started serving drinks. I mean, you add that, you're going to jump up probably another 10 dB. Just so happens 80 dB is our next jump up. By the way, decibels, even though it means 10, you can have 3 decibel, you can have 38 decibel. We're just doing this in 20s and 10s for time's sake. So anyway, 80 dB is about as loud as your home vacuum cleaner. At this time, I would like to point out that the Deci system is logarithmic, meaning that everything grows exponentially, much like the earthquake Richter scale. 80 dB sounds a lot louder than twice as loud as 40 dB. This is because with every 3 dB or decibel increase, sound pressure doubles, which gets us to 90 dB is going to sound twice as loud as 80 dB. All right, but before we go to 90 dB, let's talk about 85 dB. 85 dB and above is where in the industrial world, where there's OSHA, that's where hearing hearing monitoring starts at that loudness. And it's done when the person's exposed to a certain amount of loudness over a certain period of time. What they call a time-weighted average. 8 hours at 85 dB is when you need to start wearing hearing protection. Anything beyond that, the same thing applies. Now, what I'm about to say next is going to seem a little confounding. This is the way they have it set up. I look at hearing loss as being an accumulative situation. I think anything over 85 dB, you should be wearing hearing protection to protect it. I don't care how long you're exposed. The industry says that at 85 dB you can handle 16 hours unprotected. At 90 dB you can only handle 8 hours unprotected. So as you can see there, just with a 5 dB increase, your time exposure that's acceptable is cut in half. And you'll see this more as we go. Now remember, the vacuum cleaner, remember about how loud, you know how loud a vacuum cleaner is. All right, that's around 80 dB. Now let's take a listen to something that's just 90 dB. Just 10 dB higher, but at this exponential rate. Let's take a listen. Well, you probably thought that was a lawnmower. All right, now we're going to go to 100 dB, and that's kind of on par with like a loud factory, or when those planes fly over our base, they get so darn loud, it's unbelievable. But anyway, let's go ahead and take a listen to what 100 dB sounds like. Okay, well that's about enough of that. That is just 100% pure noise. Noise by definition is unwanted sound. You would never want that, so it's noise at 100 decibels. Now at 100 decibels, the safe exposure time is cut to 2 hours. 100 dB, it was 8 hours. At 95, it was 4 hours. So with the 5 decibel increase, we are cutting the safe time exposure in half from the 85 decibel point on up. So 85 decibels, it's 16 hours, 90 decibels, 8, 95, it's 4, and at 100 decibels, it is cut to just 2 hours. And now we're going to go up to 115 decibels, and now we're looking at just a brief, even moments of exposure at this sound level can be damaging to your hearing. So next we're going to listen to an electric rotary handsaw. It puts out about 115 dB. So we know that that puts out around 110 to 115 dB sound pressure. According to OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health people, safe time exposure at 110 decibels is 0 to 30 minutes. At 115 decibels, it's 0 to 15 minutes. I say, anytime that you feel like you want to take your fingers and plug your ears, that's really the time that you want to get some sort of hearing protection going, because that's nature's way of telling you you are around something or in an environment that is too loud and can cause damage to your hearing. Now next we go to 120 dB, which clearly no time is safe for that, and that is about as loud as being at the front of the stage at a rock concert. Any point from here on, we're talking instant damage. That's all there is to it. Not coming back, permanent hearing loss. Okay, now let's take another look back here at the chart. Next place we jump to is 130 dB to 140, and that's about as loud as a machine gun. And so now, people, somewhere between the 120 decibels that you get at a concert and the 140 dB there from a machine gun, pain begins. Pain created from such excessive sound pressure. Another excellent indicator that you are in danger of losing your hearing and fast. And around 150 dB is like a handgun blast inside a shooting range. 160 dB is like it being by a jet plane taking off. But believe it or not, there are some weapons that can actually produce even more dB sound pressure than the plane taking off. Even some handguns and grenades and other types of explosives. You'll suffer what we call acoustic trauma if you're ever within 2 to 3 feet of anything that sounds like this. Whoa, that woke some people up. I saw about 2 or 3 of you just about dive out of your chair hearing that. And now we're at the last number on the chart. That's 180 dB. And that is as loud as being right on the launching pad during a rocket launch.
4, 3, 2, 1, fire!
And by the way, at that sound pressure, there is no hearing protection on the face of the earth that's going to help you. We conduct through our bones. You're going to have hearing loss no matter what. So definitely stay away from launching pads. Now I want to talk a little bit about hearing protection. Now hearing protection is assigned a noise reduction rating. So, therefore, if you get any hearing protection, you want to look at that. Is it a 18 dB NRR, or is it a 25 or 30? That is going to tell you the level of protection that hearing protection provides. Okay, now, the higher the number, the more it will stop sound, the more its ability to do that. That doesn't necessarily mean that you always need the highest number, the highest rated. For example, when you're doing outdoor shooting, 22 and in that vicinity up to maybe 25 is perfectly acceptable for just regular outdoor shooting, typically. But doing indoor shooting, you really want as much as you can possibly get, which is around 30 or 31. I really want to clear this up more than anything. I get asked this. People say, well, you know, I've got these roll-ups, they say 33. And that is just, well, I don't know how else to put this, but because of bone conduction, you are only really going to ever really benefit from around a 30 dB noise reduction rating. The highest rated earmuffs, the ones that are used by people who are instructors in indoor shooting ranges like the one we have over here on base, those are only rated at 30 dB, or that is to say that's the highest you can possibly get. Now they maybe double up. Now they put in a nice pair of custom earplugs from All Ears Hearing Products and Services, and they put that muff over that. You know, they're still probably just topping out at 31. Reason why it doesn't matter if they top out at 38 or 4,000, you know, which is of course impossible, is because of bone conduction. If you just think of your skull like a house and the opening of your ear as like an open window or door, well, we can put the best door or window right there to block, the best in the world. And it just, you know, which is like what All Ears Hearing Products are custom fit, like the IM2 Pros. It's just not going to get any better. At a certain point, you got the walls of the house, which is like your skull, and you gotta get bone conduction. So don't be fooled by that. You know, it's just not. You are only going to benefit from like a earmuff or hearing earplugs up to around 30, 31. So that's very important that you understand that. And don't be fooled by it. Well, the more the better. It depends on the application for which you're needing the hearing protection. Okay, now let's move on.
Excuse me. So, are you saying when we're in an indoor shooting range, we need to double up no matter how high the rating is on the custom earplug and the earmuff?
You want to have both earmuffs and earplugs, preferably custom earplugs. And that's just, you know, so important. And the higher the number, of course, the better. So now I want to go ahead and put on last year's tape which was of Sergeant Bully,